You know what? It's time to talk about Custodes. But, oh, I don't have any. Let's change that. Now, we're here to learn about Custodes. And what better place to start than with their name? What is a Custodes? Custodes nuts. Ah, so it's potentially from custodian, as in to look after something, because they're looking after the, alive, in quotes, emperor. Kind of like how a custodial staff takes care of a building, or like if your wife leaves with the kids and you have a legal battle for custody. Oh, that's sad. But I had a theory. So yeah, custodian is all well and good, but Custodes also sounds an awful lot like custard. And it doesn't end there. Custard, yellow, and Custodes are gold, which is basically a fancy yellow. So custard's got a whole extra thing in common with Custodes. But what would seal the deal? The taste test. Ugh. Easy. Looks so appetizing. Okay, it tastes good. It's probably all the sugar. And now we compare it. Where's the custodian? Ow. Ow. Oh, I was wrong. I might as well have some custard. So how can we get our grubby little mitts on some custodians? Well, to get your standard Custodes, we've got two options. Buying the guard box for £37.50, which I believe is one of the best value boxes you can get, along with stuff like Deathwing Knights, some of the really good combat patrols, and this big thing. However, you must keep in mind, you can pick up a box of goblins for 27 squids, so everything else is rubbish really. Anyway, another way to get your hands on the normal custodians is with the combat patrol. For £95 you can get the box we just talked about, but also 3 bikes and 2 sets of 5 Sisters of Silence. So the choice is yours. They're roughly the same value. It's technically a little better to get 7 of this guard box for 2,000 points, but you won't have any variety. One note, for the value of the combat patrol, it's strange because it used the fact that 5 sisters are £35 for some reason. Okay, now that's sorted. Let's do some warhammering. So, we got 2 of the guard boxes, with 5 handsome lads looking big and strong on the front, and some of the build options on the back. And look, it even tells us what paints they used to make the models look far better than I ever could. Cool. Here. 4. There. Now a little look for all you sprue perverts out there. Big boy 40mm bases. Some amazing art. And 2, 4, 6, 8 pages of instructions with some mega out-of-date rules at the back, which is fun. But how are they to build, you ask? Well, easy peasy. Now, I know I want some shieldy boys and some speary boys, but how many of each? Well, to decide, let's look at some rules. The hot and fresh 10th edition rules, that as of right now came out a few days ago. Plus, some points to go with them, that came out literally a few hours ago. Now, we mustn't look at their stats yet, we'll cover them later, so it'll be a bit of a spoiler. Down here we can see our options. Any can take either sword and shield or spear. Spear's killier and sword and shield is tankier. And one can have a vexilla, but then they don't get a normal weapon and instead could use a misericordia or a misericordia and a shield for the same points. So Right. Well, sorry to break immersion, but this is recorded after I built them, but before these rules existed. So, the Vexilla I made might be a bit different to these, and brings up a problem that we tackle later. So, keep that in mind. For now though, the guard box is the only way to get Custodes with these shields. So let's build 5 with shields, 3 with spears, and 1 Vexilla, making 9 Custodes, and then save the last model for a shield captain that we'll be covering in a later video. Grand. That should come to 405 points. Man, Custodes are the best. All this talk of the Custard Men, but I don't know much about them. Well, where better place to learn about the big gold boys than the big gold book? In here there's 38 pages of lore, not with a W, the other one. Let's see how long it takes. Wow. I've learnt I'm a slow reader, and from my notes here I've got gold, yep, know that one. Lots of gold. All of them 9 foot. Tall kings. Now, here at Pile of Shame, we're all about our short kings, but we'll make an exception just this once. Their boss, Traja Valaja, the Captain General, he's the biggest and the goldest. 6 big shield hosts that any Custodes can join to share in a quest. 5 orders within the Custodes, each one harder to pronounce than the last. Hecatonoi and Cataphractoi. Now, we've come this far avoiding the obvious question, one I'm sure you're all asking right now. Knobs? Are they knobless, like the Space Marine? It says they don't have organ implants, and are instead changed on a genetic level through Dark Age science. But, does it fall off during that procedure? The only potential answer I could find is vague, as I think it's talking about the scribes that are the main focus of this short story, saying, all were eunuchs. The 10,000 had no time for base human distractions. Now, it's in its own paragraph, so you could go that it's talking about the Custodes. So in conclusion, maybe. What were we talking about? Oh, lore. The last thing I've got here, each warrior poets. I can't try the warrior part, but I can try the poet bit. So as we go on, I'll sprinkle a few of the easiest form of poetry, haikus. Prep steps. Before we ruin our perfect grey models with paint, we need to do some prep. Plan the whole army's scheme, get some stuff to base them, and then do the base coat spraying. So step 1, the scheming step. Now on page 3 of the now old codex, we're told you can use the images in the book to give you ideas of how you want to paint your minis. So, let's do it. Ooh. I swear I had a Diablo character that looked just like this. So the thing that stuck in my mind was gold. Lots of gold. Each Custodes is a hero in their own right, so each model should at least be slightly different. So that leads me to an idea of a scheme, and I'll show you that scheme with a handy step-by-step guide. But not right now, we've more prep to do. For basing, I'm a simple person, so I want some simple bases. And while my Necrons have grey bases, these will have brown. We'll use sterling mud, some little rocks that I gathered from the terrifying outside world, and this mega fine plastic grass turf stuff from Woodland Scenics, which can be bought for £7 off Amazon. Spoilers, I love this stuff, but do not breathe it in. Okay, all that's left for prep is to stick them to a stick and spray them with Retributor armour. Perfect. Because we're starting a new army, we're treating this as a special occasion, so I decided to treat myself. I'm officially retiring the Wargamer Regiment Triangle brush from the Army Painter's brush line that was used for every video so far. My favourite brush ever. But it's time for an upgrade. So to commemorate this video and keep the brush safe forever, it's going to live on the wall. Right here. So I've heard for years now from other YouTube videos that one of the best brushes for Warhammer is this. The Winsor & Newton Series 7 Fancy. So I'll be trying it out and I'll let you know how it goes. Now, let's do some painting. Here we've got our golden boy, primed with Retributor armour. Now if you only want to play with friends, just throw on some Reichland Flesh Shade or some Agrax Earth Shade over the goldy bits, and you're good to go. But for this scheme, there's quite a few more steps than that. And because there's so many steps, we'll be going speedy, so pause if you need. Superglue rocks and stuff to the base. I've since learned you should wash your rocks, but I didn't know that. Also, these skulls are from the Skulls kit that GW sells that I got years ago. I chucked a couple of those on the base too. Sterling mud all over the base and leaving it to dry. Now, while you're waiting, maybe you could get in the Custodes mood and finish off the massive pot of custard that you got for a stupid joke and are now saddled with. Steel Legion drab all over the base. This will also be used later for the rim. Wash the goldy bits in Reikland Flesh Shade. This will give a warmer tone than Agrax, but Agrax Earthshade would also work. It just leaves them with a slightly darker tone. This is another step that needs you to wait for it to dry. So you know what that means. More custard. The more you look at it, the less you want it. Corax White the skulls. This makes them really bright on the base, which is what I wanted. Agrax Earthshade, everything on the base. This is the final waiting step, which means we have the chance to ask God why they don't sell smaller pots of custard in Tesco's. Tyrant Skull Dry Brush over the base. Mechanixus Grey the rocks. A Retributor dry brush over the armour, and then a smaller dry brush of Auric Gold over the same armour. I don't know if this step does anything, but it's the most Custodes sounding paint, so I had to use it. Corax White dry brush the rocks. Now this is the point I PVA glued the fake grass to the base, but do not do it so early. Wait for one of the final steps to do this part, as I was breathing in this poison whenever I put it close to my face. Love the look though. Lead Belcher all the metally bits. Don't worry about being messy as we'll clean it up later. Also, for most steps beginning with this one, we'll be using multiple watered down layers. Abaddon Black for the weapon, Dryad Bark for the leathery bits, Galvorbag Red for handily parts, Balthazar Gold for the ammo in his little magazine, Nullnoil the Lead Belcher, Mephiston Red the little gems hidden all over his armour and his beady eyes, Warpstone Glow for his shoulder and hair. However, we use different colour for different models. Carroburg Crimson Wash over the gems and eyes. Clean up a clock, so Retributor Gold for anywhere that needs it. And then another Reikland Flesh Shade over that gold so it doesn't stand out. Coelia Green Shade, the green bits. The most delicate step, Stormhost Silver, his hairband and the face just below his eyes. Fenrisian Grey for his blade. And an Ulthuan Grey highlight for the sharpest bits. Technically an edge highlight, but don't tell anyone. Then, the vital last step, Steel Legion drab on the rim of the base. And with that, he's done. And if you followed along, you're now the proud owner of your very own Custard Man. God, that was long. Let's celebrate with a lore corner. The Emperor is dead. Or is he? Well, we'll never know, because to find out, we'd have to get past his 10,000 9-foot-tall, genetically altered, Auramite armour-clad golden bodyguard, the Custodes. Made over decades, with Dark Age science only the Emperor could understand, each Custodian is able to dispatch all but the scariest of threats to the Imperium. Even a mighty space marine is nothing but a lowly slug to be stepped on. Now, say you were lucky enough to get through the Imperial Palace and into the throne room itself, well, the 300 companions, made up of custodians constantly watching the throne, will stop at nothing until they've chopped you up into little tiny pieces, as, for 10,000 years, they've had nothing better to do than swat at the flies buzzing around the Emperor's very alive body. So, if the Emperor is dead, I'm not going to find out. Oh, look at them. What a bunch of handsome lads. I'd been told Custodes were one of the easier armies to paint, and I think they might be, though it did take a while for each one, and I don't really know why. Maybe just how detailed each of the models are, but I'm happy with how they look. They look like a pack of Power Rangers. Not amazing, but they're mine, and I like them. Now the new brush was amazing. Held paint really well, kept a point way longer than the old one. Sorry, old brush. Though, it's quite long and wide, so getting into thin gaps was tougher. So if you fancy a new brush, this is a good one. But now we've got them, let's look at how strong they are, with their brand new rules. And what's not to love about these rules? They're tanky, toughness 6, 3 wounds, or 4 wounds, a 2-up save, and a 4-up invuln. But that's not all. They're killy too, especially the spear, hitting on 2s, strength 7, 2 AP, 2 damage. Ooh. And both options shoot pretty well, with the slightly weaker sword actually being a pistol, so you can shoot in combat, which is neat. They have wound re-rolling options, can shoot twice once per battle, and with the Vixilla have good OC. So this is it, right? The perfect data sheet. Well, there's the little confusing bit we mentioned earlier, with a choice that isn't really a choice. You can either have an extra wound or not, but I mean that's okay, only an idiot would make that mistake, right? Right? Okay, so I made that mistake. Before this sheet even existed, I built my lads. I knew I wanted a variety, so I made everything the kit had to offer. I wanted a Vexilla, and saw from the Alaris previewed datasheet that a Vexilla is now part of the squad instead of its own character. So I looked up the old Vexilla stats, and it said you could have one with a spear, as that one could be built from the Warden box. So when I was building all of them, I got my little clippers out and did a conversion, and was happy for a few days. Then the datasheets came out, and I realised my crimes. So for the first time ever, I took my snippers to a painted model, and the memory still haunts me. Looking at the new datasheet before the points reveals, I decided that the shield would obviously be more expensive, because it's just objectively better. Then glued a spare Misericordia to the nub, and again I was happy, being a 2-time conversion master, but I was a fool again. The points are now out, and I have a model that is exclusively worse than it could be, for free. So will I do more snipping? No. I mean, it's kind of funny, so I'm just going to leave it. It's not really a big deal. What are we talking about? Oh, right. Rules. My favourite part of the Custodes rules is probably their tankiness. So, let's use the standard test of tankiness that is, of course, how many warriors? That's right, how many warriors does it take to kill this many Custodes? We'll pretend that all the warriors have the Killia weapon and they're shooting without any buffs. So that's hitting on 4s, 2 shots, with lethal hits, strength 5, 1 AP, 1 damage. Simple, right? Okay, let's go. 1. No. 2. No. 3. No. 110. No. I've run out of warriors. That's 110, and they only killed 4. So, we've learned to kill 9 Custodes we'll need at least more warriors than you can take in a game. Wow, really useful information that. What a journey we've been on. When I began, I knew nearly nothing about Custodes, and now I nearly don't know nothing. Huh? I love them. The only thing I want is maybe one more box of guard, but for now I'm happy, and looking forward to what other Custodes units I can do. Ratings wise they're really good. Overall an A, nearly great, but every category has just a little thing that holds them back. But what's next, I hear you cry? Bugs.